Here's my Ted Lasso plug. Isaac McAdoo. Roy takes him back to play street soccer. Coach Roy, why are you bringing me here? Like, I'm going to kill these people. I'm a professional soccer player. We need to get to the root of why you're playing this game. Have you had an Isaac McAdoo moment where you've gone, why the bleepity bleep am I putting myself through this, and my husband and my loved ones? And then what did you do to reevaluate and re-experience kind of the fun that you experienced as a young girl?
Oh yeah, so many Isaac moments. Welcome to Ditto. Matt, how are you today?
I'm really good. I'm tired. I had a plane early this morning. I had to go to the great state of Mississippi yesterday. But other than that, I'm doing great. How are you? Wait, hold on. So we're recording this today's Tuesday, 2 days after Ashley's very first match of the 2024 season.
Yes.
So now let me ask you, Ashley, how are you and how did Sunday go? For those that probably know by now, they lost 1-0 or 0-1, however you say it.
Yes.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be home. Still a little upset about the loss. It was a difficult one. The game was crazy, but it was also the first match of the season, so lots of room for improvement, lots of room for growth. I think every single player on the team is eager to just get better, so I think that's a silver lining of a poor result, but excited to be back home for the next 2 weeks and have 2 home games. So yeah.
Wait, so okay, your new coach, is he there yet? Not yet.
No, our new head coach is not here yet, but Adrian is our interim coach, who's also from space.
Okay.
Space. He's from space. He's from
space.
He's from Spain.
They're both from Saturn. Oh my gosh, I want to meet them.
They're that far
What's
away.
What's that like?
He's also from Spain. But yeah, so he's doing a great job, and yeah, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but excited.
Yeah.
Oh,
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Ashley, what the heck are we talking about today? We've gone through some of these wonderful topics thus far. A lot of these I feel like are so applicable, and we're trying from like a 30,000 foot viewpoint to kind of distill it down into like tangible tools and strategies. What today, why this topic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Matt, today we are going to be talking about motivation, which I feel like for both of us, after traveling and having crazy weekends, we could probably use a little bit more of. But motivation, I think it's something that's very relevant to athletes, but also anyone in all different aspects of life. I think we all have moments in time where we have really high motivation or very, very low motivation or something in between. Today we're going to have our Ditto discussions around motivation.
I love it. I love this topic. Like self-confidence, and I know I'm going to say this so much and the listeners might get annoyed, but here we go anyways. Ashley, you can attest to this, and then I'll share an example, right? Ashley, you can attest to this. But that's why we're having this conversation, because ditto, and we agree with a lot of these things. Anyways, like self-confidence, which was our first episode, I believe.
Yep,
yes.
numero uno. It's
very fickle. So if those that can't see my hand right now, I'm doing a wave or roller coaster, or just up and down. I think we can all attest to that. That's just kind of how we've experienced or are experiencing motivation as human beings. Like you mentioned, there are days when motivation is so high and we are go-getters, and the alarm clock goes off at 5:30 and we're ready to eat no sugar, and we're ready to get work done within the first 3 hours of the day, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's days where all you want to do is cuss and swear and stay in bed and eat donuts maybe and open up the Oreo package. By the way, the reason I'm talking about sugar right now is because I'm doing a no sugar march.
Oh.
We're calling it a no munchies march. And so me and my wife we're trying to do no like hardcore goodies for the month of March. We just want to see how we feel.
Nice.
It's not I want to lose 5 pounds, 20 pounds, etc. It's just I want to see how my body feels after March. And so 1st of April is kind of our due date. Anyways, that's why I'm using those examples because I think I'm craving sugar right now. So yeah, motivation. You know, again, I love this topic, and I feel like it comes up often, especially with when we're talking about athletics. That is, especially with coaches and parents. In fact, I was just talking to a mom yesterday, and she has a 10th grader. I think he's 10th grade, 16. Yeah, 10th grade ish. And apparently he's really great at football, American football, that is. Not
the real football.
Football. Not the real football. Again, I don't know why don't we call it football? It just doesn't make sense. Anyways, American football. He's 16, and she was saying he's 6'7", 270 at 16. I'm like, wow. Holy crap, he's probably already getting recruited by some major colleges. But then she goes, it's just hard to like get him going sometimes and to light that fire and to find and help him find that motivation. Well, luckily enough, especially for me as a practitioner, there's this amazing theory, and I'm not going to be super professor here, but it's just so simple and so applicable. So here we go. We're going to be talking theoretical, and then we'll unpack it from all these different angles. And I want to, of course, share Ashley's experience with this because I know you and I have discussed this before. Self-determination theory. That's the name of this theory, SDT, and it was by DC and Ryan a number of years ago. I think they're psychologists, at least stemming from the field of psychology. Here's what the theory postulates. If we as human beings can address 3 basic psychological needs within this theory, and those are competence, relatedness, and autonomy, we will, in theory, experience self-determination. In other words, we'll experience motivation. And it'll be in the moment, and it'll be sustained over the long haul as well. So if we're addressing competence, relatedness, and autonomy, that is the experience. And so I was talking to this mom about this theory, and luckily she was an academic, and so talking about theory wasn't weird between 2 professors.
2 nerds.
And I told her, I'm like, yeah, 2 nerds. Here we go. Yeah. I'll own it. And I asked her, I'm like, why don't you like experiment with this actual theory with your son? So then we proceeded to have this conversation of what kind of opportunities is he having with competence? What kind of opportunity are you giving him with autonomy? What kind of opportunity can he have with relatedness? And we were answering these questions, and she was saying, oh, he could do better with competence in this area. He could do better with autonomy in this area, relatedness, etc. Again, the simplicity of it is, I think, so apparent. For me as a professor, for me as a coach, a practitioner, it's been the overarching kind of teaching philosophy, consulting philosophy for me because of its simplicity and because of its power, right? Like you going along this process of trying to find motivation, and especially, again, for those that can't see my hand, in those valleys of motivation, in those dips of motivation, answer these questions like, what kind of opportunities or where am I seeing competence in my life right now? Where am I seeing autonomy? Where am I seeing relatedness? And so I want to ask you, Ashley, as it pertains to, if you want to go even, broader with motivation in general in your experience and what that's been like and how you have found motivation, fantastic. Or maybe if you want to be theoretical and join the nerd group, how have you experienced perhaps competence, autonomy, and relatedness in your life? And what has that been like, especially in terms of you finding and sustaining motivation?
I would love to join the nerd group. I don't know if I'm
good.
I'm fully
good. Any welcome. We're very inclusive.
Yes, well, I really appreciate that. I mean, I guess I do have a couple questions. Competence, autonomy, and relatedness. And so I'm just going to take a stab at what I think they are, and then maybe you can like correct me on if I'm
Sure.
if I'm picking up what you're putting down correctly.
I'll do my best. Are you smelling what I'm stepping in?
Yep. I mean, I feel like autonomy is probably the easiest one for me to understand. Just like the ability for you to like do something because you want to do it and you know how to do it. I guess that maybe like bleeds into competence though. Is competence just like understanding what it is that you're doing and the reason why you're doing it, and that's why you have motivation?
On some level, so competence, not confidence. And I know you didn't say that, but I feel like a lot of people get mixed up with confidence and competence. Confidence is more of a belief about your abilities. When somebody is competent, it's they are actually able to do X, Y, Z. So you have the skill set, you have the ability, whether it's innate or acquired, you have a competence to be able to perform a task essentially successfully.
So this mother and her son is very competent to play this game because he's how tall did you say he was?
Yeah, she was. I don't know how. Maybe it was like a mom thing where she's like, he's 6'8" or 6'7", but he's really like 6'1".
Yeah.
She said he's 6'7", 270, and he's 16.
Wow.
So I'm guessing tight end, offensive line, defensive line, just really big person amongst the 16-year-olds.
Okay, so he's very competent.
Large, yeah, right. Like I'm guessing he's super strong and pushes people around and knocks people over. So his ability, his competence is really high.
Okay,
absolutely.
And then relatedness. Can you expound on that a little bit more on like what that definition looks like when we talk about the self-determination theory?
Yeah, it's. I hate to single out one psychological need according to this theory, but if I had to only pick one that was or is perhaps the most influential, I'm guessing it would be relatedness, or I'm saying it's relatedness, just because whether we're aware of it, conscious of it or not, we play especially sports because we want to compete against other people, and or because we want to compete with other people. And so sports like soccer, sports like American football, you're on a team and you perform and are successful as a team. It's not an individual thing. Even in a sport like golf or tennis, you still have a huge support team, relatedness component to you competing. And so there's, again, whether an athlete is aware of it or not, I believe it's a huge motivating factor to help, contribute to the team, or to not let so-and-so down, or to help so-and-so. There's just the interrelationship factor that's just so key to this motivation experience, especially in a performance setting like sport. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like that applies to what I was just saying about my team and the result that we just had this weekend.
Totally.
And I think a lot of our motivation comes from all of us as a collective unit, as the Washington Spirit, wanting to be better and wanting to be more successful. So I think that's a clear reason for a lot of our motivation, especially for this upcoming game this weekend. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. What was your question? Sorry, we had to dive into those so I can.
I know. Explaining. No, I think it was beautiful to be able to unpack those a little bit more. Now that you were speaking here, now I have kind of opposite ends of the spectrum that I want to hear your perspective with, as it pertains to this concept of motivation, and especially these psychological needs. Right? Where have you seen this flourish? What kind of experiences have you seen relatedness just be the most impactful, positive thing, maybe competence and maybe autonomy? And then on the flip side, where have you seen these really missing? Maybe all three, maybe two of them, maybe just one of them, and how this is relating to this thing of motivation. Make sense? Is that way too much of a question?
It's a very complex question, but I can definitely take a stab at
Do
it.
your best. Do your darndest.
I mean, I think when it comes to like my career and thinking about like different stages of my career and like different levels of times where I had a lot of motivation or where I didn't have a lot of motivation, I think back to like when I first started playing soccer, and not only first started playing, but like first started playing like competitively or a little bit more seriously. And I remember having like lots of conversations with my dad about it, because like it was such an investment of time and money, like on my parents' end, also on my end too. But like the transition from, okay, we're just playing for fun, to like, okay, like that we're competing and this is like, you have potential to go somewhere with this. There's a definite like shift of investment, but also motivation that's required when you take that jump. And so I remember my dad being very adamant of like, you need to want this for yourself. Like, I can't want it for you. And so like, in order for me to make that leap and be like, Dad, I want to play, like, seriously, I want you to put me on the best club team. I want you to pay for me to be on a travel team. Like, I had to show to him that I had that like self-determination or that internal like motivation for myself, and not just like I was doing it because he wanted me to do it or because he knew that I was good enough to do it.
And your dad was giving you autonomy to self-discover that and implement that. Yeah, I love it.
So I think that stood out to me right away, because that was huge, because I feel like I had, like, this was my thing. Like, no one was forcing me to do this. If I wanted to do it, I could be as successful or not as successful as I wanted to be. Like, whatever work I put in, that's the direction I was going to go. If I didn't put in the work, then I probably wasn't going to go anywhere. But like relatedness, I also had a sister that I practiced with all the time. And I feel like having that like back and forth, whether it's competitive between each other or like holding each other accountable, I feel like was also like super helpful when it came to motivation. There was times where we lived in Arizona, and so we had to wake up like super early or stay up super late to like hide from the sun or practice like in the shade of trees so we didn't die of like heat exhaustion. So there was times when it was really hard to find that motivation, but like seeing my sister go out sometimes before me, or like wanting to stay out longer than I did, I was like, oh dang, like I want to be like her, or I want to be as good or better than she is. So that relatedness and that competitiveness, I feel like also really helped with motivation. And like you referenced earlier,
Totally.
like just being a part of a team as well. I think there's so many areas of motivation, and just like wanting to be connected and be a part of the collective, a successful collective, is really important and really fun, especially as a youth player. And then competence, I feel like at a young age, I had just like a lot of speed. And so that was something that really helped me as a soccer player from the get-go, is just like my ball skills maybe weren't the very best, but like I at least was fast. So I had a little bit of success. And then that success turned into like, okay, like I want to be better at my ball control with my right and my left foot. So I was like motivated to continue to get better and develop those skills that made me more competent to be successful in soccer. So those, I guess that's my answer for how those have helped me, especially at the beginning stages of my career.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What about the flip side? What kind of experiences have you had where it's been maybe detrimental?
I mean, I feel like I've been on teams like throughout my career, from like youth to high school to college, or even professionally, where we've had moments where we haven't been great as a team and like our relatedness, and it's felt more like people care more about maybe individual success than like team success. And so I feel like that can be detrimental to like motivation among the team, like individuals, because like you're showing up but you don't feel like you're part of the collective, and you don't know, or you don't feel that just like cohesion of like, okay, we all have individual roles and we're working together, but the ultimate goal is this like team success. I've been on different teams where like there's been a fluctuation of that, and that can be really hard. Autonomy, where you feel like you're doing something because someone else tells you to do it, not because you want to do it. Like there's been many times where, you know, maybe like say my dad or even a coach is like, you should work on this or you should do that. Or even like my husband sometimes, he'd be like, you should do this. And I'm like,
he's listening.
Yeah. I'm like, I really don't want to. So my motivation for that specific task, whether it be soccer or not soccer related, is sometimes lower because I feel like someone's telling me to do it and I don't want to do it. And then competence, just like feeling like you don't have the ability to do something that you want to do, is also, I feel like, a huge hit to motivation, because you're like, why would I do that when I don't know I can't, or I don't feel like I can, or I don't physically have the ability to do that. So yeah, those are my answers for you.
Yeah, no, those were great. It's interesting, right, that with these experiences, and especially your experiences in starting at such a young age, and this is such a huge part of your life and now in the professional ranks, you can kind of pull and tease these apart in these experiences when we're just looking at motivation. I think it's interesting. Now, here's something I've been contemplating, for a while now, is like for this example with this mother, what if one is just what one piece of this is just so obviously missing? Like the kid's really competent, 6'7", 270 pounds. He's playing American football. That seems like a great size at about 16 years old. But what if his mom and dad, and I know there are so many parents like this.
Yes.
And I know you can attest to this, ditto, because soccer tends to have these soccer moms and these soccer dads. It's directing and saying and militant, like, this is what you will do. This is when you will practice. You have to check these off. So, I mean, what happens then? Like, what if the parent gives the child zero autonomy because they know that they have the competence, they know they have the ability, and they can really succeed and get a college scholarship, but I don't have to pay for college for my kid, and maybe play professionally, and they're on a great team, but they give them zero autonomy. Like, what then?
I mean, I think it's a recipe for disaster, if you're asking me personally. Totally.
Have you seen that? I'm guessing you've seen that with some of these parents you've been indirectly or directly associated with.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've heard many, many times of people just like, oh, my daughter's so great, she just like doesn't have the motivation, or like, maybe you can talk to her because like she'll listen to you and not to me, and that'll give her some more motivation. Yeah. And like, I think that's fine. Like, I think that can help for a little bit, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you want something to be long-term or to be like sustaining motivation, you need to figure out as a parent or as a mentor or whatever it is, like what they actually want. And if it is, so like with my dad, for example, we had those conversations. He was like, is this something that you want? And he was like, think about it and come back to me and let me know. And if you do want it and you're all in, I will then do my best to help you get to where you want to go. And that may be sometimes like my dad saying like, hey, you need to go out and practice. You didn't practice today, or your left foot needs a little bit more work. But because we had that conversation, I knew that he was doing that because I told him that's what I wanted. And so I think it's like as simple as having that conversation of like, is this something you want? Because I feel like I'm forcing you because I see it in you. And if it's not, then maybe we need to take a step back and we need to like find a way for you to fall in love with the game or figure out why you do want it. Or if you don't, then maybe we need to find a different avenue. Maybe you need to play basketball instead of football, or maybe you need to play an instrument, or I don't know, like join choir, whatever it is.
Chess club.
Yeah, chess club.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that autonomy is super, super important. And I think just having a conversation about it, maybe multiple times, and rechecking in, like, hey, is this still something you want? Is really, really helpful.
Do you remember what age roughly he first had that conversation with you? Maybe you don't, and that's okay.
I think it was before I started playing like travel, like club soccer, and that was around like 11 or 12.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that was, I think we even like made like a little like contract, and he like made me sign it. He didn't make me sign it, but he invited me to sign it.
Oh my gosh, I love your dad.
Yeah, we'll have to have him on sometime.
The contract of autonomy.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And that age, roughly 9, 10, 11 in there, you start to notice abilities like, all right, this person, they have a knack to be able to kick the ball. They're really fast. They have, again, some sense of competence to be able to perform successfully. And so, like you said, it can be as simple as just having the conversation. And if you don't have the relationship with your child to be able to have that conversation, maybe you reevaluate how you're parenting. Here we go. We're giving parenting advice.
I'm not even a parent, so you're the only one that can give this advice.
But it's so crucial. I mean, they're human beings, and they want to converse, and they want to have a say. And so why not give them that opportunity?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been consulting with a number of athletes and a number of performers. And it's interesting that you said, around that age, I've been consulting with some younger athletes, really high level athletes. And we get on, session kind of begins, right? And I ask, how's it going? What you been up to? And no joke, Ashley, it's, this is when I had practice, and this is how I did at practice, and then I had to do this for film, and then I had to do this. And it's all about them getting better and how they've performed. And then I go, wait, time out. Stop for just a minute. Like, are you having fun? Because if this isn't fun, why the bleepity bleep are you doing this? Why are you engaging in all of these things? And it's oftentimes, again, not always, but oftentimes it's just the parent pushing and pushing and pushing. And I know, parents, you want your kids to be high achievers, and you want them to, quote unquote, have a better life than what you did and have more opportunities than you did. But there also comes a point, I think, where you have to, push on the brakes, or maybe put it in park and just relax a little bit and have these type of conversations, especially in and around autonomy. Maybe they're 10 years old, maybe they're 16, maybe they're 7. Just the right timing, I think you'll know as a parent, to be able to ask these type of questions. Are you having fun? Why are you doing this? If you're serious about it, I'm going to support you. If you're not, let's figure out something else that you can do extracurricular wise, to where you can put in some wonderful deliberate effort and develop work ethic and develop wonderful habits that are going to serve you as a human being. Because ultimately, that's what the purpose, I think, should be. It's not getting to play for the Washington Spirit. It's becoming a better human being. And sport is such an amazing avenue to be able to do that, and to acquire some of these skill sets of autonomy, of relatedness, of competence that you can apply to business, that you can apply to relationships, that you can apply to so many different domains. But we rob that experience of these kids, especially in and around, especially autonomy. That's just really kind of unfortunate. Yeah.
I mean, I 100% agree. I remember, I think it was a couple years ago, but I was getting cleared from a concussion, and I was actually meeting with one of our team docs, who's like top of the line of her field. I guess she like studies a lot about like concussions and brain injuries and all that stuff. She's just very, very smart woman. And I was just like, we were just like chatting, and I was telling her about like how I was trying to learn Spanish, and I don't know exactly how we got on that topic, but she was just like, make sure that you're having fun with it. And she's like, she splurted out some like percentage of like how much more we actually learn and grow when we're learning a new skill if we're having fun. And when she said that, I was like,
Absolutely.
a light bulb kind of just like clicked, because I was able to reflect on the times where like I learned a lot and I had a lot of fun. And then the times where like I didn't get anything out of it because I felt like I was forced to it. And I thought back to reading in like elementary school and like high school, even like throughout college. I didn't really start enjoying reading until after I graduated college, because like, first of all, like when I was younger, I was a little bit slow when it came to reading. I was a little bit behind my class, and like with all the standardized testings,
okay,
I know that's why I want to be in the nerd club. I'm telling you, I would love to, but I was just a little bit like slower than all my classmates with the standardized testings. And so like, I obviously knew that. And so like, reading just in general was something that I was very self-conscious about, and something that I didn't enjoy, because I always felt like pressure to get a high score on testing or whatever it was. So like, I didn't have the magical childhood of reading that like a lot, like my husband Jeff talks about. He talks about all of the books that he read growing up and how he
Well, Jeff is crazy. Oh my gosh. Didn't he get like a 36 on the ACT or something crazy?
Yeah, he did.
Like a perfect score.
Yeah, we're very, very different, let's to say the least. But when she
that's fantastic.
When she said that, it just kind of was like, aha, that's why I didn't enjoy reading until after college, because then I rediscovered it for myself. I had that autonomy, and like, I wasn't getting like tested. I was enjoying it. And so I think that's like super, super important, especially when it comes to sports, especially when it comes to like parent-child relationship. But also it's very interesting when you look at even just like the different countries and how we approach the sport of soccer or football. Like if you think of like Brazil or Argentina, like the kids or the youth, they're playing out in the streets all the time, and they're so crafty, and they just have so much fun, and a lot of the game brings them so much joy, but they're so freaking good, and they didn't go to a private school that had
all these academies.
Yeah, exactly. Which those things aren't bad. Like that structure's not bad if it's something that you are enjoying and that you have fun and you're smiling while you're doing it. You're smiling while you're competing. You feel yourself growing because of the challenge or whatever it is. But if it's like military style and you're just like, okay, one thing after the next, and you're not enjoying it and you're not having fun, then I don't think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And so, yeah, it's very like, even like culturally, you can see the difference in just like the way that we operate here in the youth soccer or just youth sports system, and the way that other countries that maybe don't have as much structure or even just as much resources. So yeah, I think motivation and that autonomy and just like simply enjoying whatever it is that you're doing is super, super important.
1,000%. Couldn't agree more. Okay, here's my Ted Lasso plug. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Oh, you can kind of see my believe sign for those that can see the video.
Good.
I'm pointing to it right now. All-time favorite show, you guys. Okay, you've seen it, Ashley?
I saw the first season. I haven't seen the second, but yeah, it's good.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong?
I had Apple TV for the first season, and then I didn't have it for the second season, so that's why.
Well, so just you buy or you do it, binge, and then cancel.
Okay. Maybe Jeff.
That's what you got to do. You got to do that with Apple. You got to do that with Paramount Plus. You got to do that with a bunch of these that just don't. They have like one or two good shows, and then that's it. So you just got to binge the show and then cancel it.
That's true.
And even better if you have another email that you can use and get a free trial after free trial after free trial. So there's the hack.
Smart.
Okay, here's my Ted Lasso plug. Isaac McAdoo. He's a player on Ted Lasso. This is his character name. He loses motivation. He's one of the best players. I think he's a defender. Is he a defender? Yeah. I think pretty sure he's a defender. Anyways, not important. He loses motivation, and Coach Lasso totally notices it. His team notices it. It's detrimental to the collective. So, assistant coach Roy, who says the F word every other word, for me, it's beautiful because that's just Roy. Okay? Anyways, Roy takes Isaac on a random evening into the city of London to play in in Mexico, they call it fútbol rápido. So it's like quick football on like a small field. What do they call it in English? Like fast football, fast soccer?
Kind of like futsal. Is it on cement?
Futsal.
Yeah, futsal.
I think. Is it on cement? Maybe.
Or it's just
anyways,
like, yeah.
These play. Yeah, it's essentially like in this metropolitan, like in London, there's really not a lot of fields.
Street
and
soccer.
It's essentially a basketball court. Yes, street soccer. There's the slang. See, you grew up on the streets, you know.
Exactly.
And he takes him back, like a professional soccer player, takes him back to play street soccer with just, these street gals and guys playing soccer. And at first he's like, Roy, what are you doing? Like, Coach Roy, why are you bringing me here? Like, I'm going to kill these people. I'm a professional soccer player. And it is essentially exactly what you're just talking about. Like, we need to get to the root of why you're playing this game. Because guess what? You used to be here every single day. And why were you here? Because it was fun. Because you wanted to be here. That's why. So we need to re-experience, we need to reevaluate what you're doing here so you can translate that over to the actual professional ranks. And it was so fun to see within the episode. He's playing and he's laughing and you can just see the motivation kind of, emerging and coming back. And of course it translated to the field, right? I know this is Hollywood and it wasn't real life, but I think it's a beautiful depiction or illustration of exactly what you're just talking about. Like, go back to the root of why you're playing this, especially if you're in college or in the professional ranks. I think that oftentimes needs to be experienced. So let me ask you, Ashley, have you had an Isaac McAdoo moment where you've kind of gone, why the bleepity bleep am I putting myself through this, and my husband and my loved ones? And then what did you do to, reevaluate and re-experience kind of the fun that you experienced as a young girl?
Oh yeah, so many Isaac moments. I was actually thinking of them as you were talking about it and sharing that episode. But I think for me, I fell in love with the game because of just the creativity and the self-expression, especially when it comes to just footwork and doing new tricks and trying new things. And so that's something that I always go back to is I feel as I've become a pro, I've fallen in love with also this structure of okay, this is exactly how I'm going to train. This is how many miles or high speed running meters that I need to get. Once I started playing professionally, I was introduced to that structure and just my personality type. I just really, really liked it. But sometimes I feel that takes away from the creativity and the fun side of the game that I fell in love with originally. And so when I feel myself kind of a little bit in a rut or kind of just okay, I'm going through the motions, or I'm not enjoying this as much. I'm just doing it because I know I should be doing it. This is what I have to be doing. I'll kind of take a step back and I'll go to a racquetball court, which is me and the ball with no agenda, no plan, kick the ball against the wall, try a few new juggling tricks, do some juggling against the wall, just express myself. And it's so freeing and so liberating, and it also reminds me of why I started playing and where this love originated from. And it just takes me back to my childhood and my youth when I had no real expectations. I was just playing and I was just enjoying and having fun. And so that's something that I will do often, or I'll go downstairs in our garage and kick the ball against the wall. Or I'll just take a bag of balls out to the field, dump them out, and just do moves and hit the ball into the net. And it's so funny because a lot of times I feel parents will ask me or even youth players, what's a drill that you love that I could do that could just make me better? And I feel they're expecting me to say something that's super complex and super structured, dribble through 18 and a half cones with your left foot and then scoop it up with your right and try this impossible move. But I literally tell them take a bag of balls, go out to the field, dump them down on the ground, spread them out.
Move your leg like this and hit the ball.
Exactly. in your mind, like, just have fun with, like, imagining that there's defenders and, like, do a move, like, mess up. Like, please do something that's gonna make you mess up. Like, I feel like people want to, like I said, I fell in love with the structure. Sometimes I want to get every little drill, like, perfect. But also, I'm not gaining a lot when I don't mess up. When I mess up and I can, like, self-correct and, like, have fun doing it, then I feel like I gain so much more. And so that's usually, like, something I'll recommend is, like, go out and have fun, or go juggle the ball for, like, 30 minutes to an hour in your backyard and just, like, have fun doing something so simple and so basic, because I just feel like that sets the foundation for so much. But yeah, I do that more. I probably should do it more, actually, but that's what I do all the time when I feel like I'm losing.
But you still do it, right? That's the main point. Like, you still experience this. Yeah.
Yep.
It's so amazing, and this is going to kind of one of our points that we wanted to touch on today. Basically, you were describing interpreting what it takes to achieve success, especially this avenue or vehicle of motivation. So in the literature, here we go, professor coming out again. They call this task orientation. You essentially are comparing your performances with personal standards and personal improvement. And thus, we're much more likely to experience happiness, joy, and motivation in that process. The flip side to that is what's called ego orientation. So essentially, you're comparing performances with others and defeating others. That is ephemeral, so it's going to end, right? But what is sustainable, especially according to the literature, is this more task orientation. I want to get better from yesterday. I want to get better from my last match. I want to get better from last season, etc. And so you're just finding that daily motivation to allow that or facilitate that process. And thus, again, you're enjoying it more. You're finding the roots a little bit more and finding or rediscovering the why behind you playing. I would argue, being a college football fan, in addition to being a soccer fan, especially NWSL, I would argue it's why Nick Saban quit earlier, I think, than expected, or retired from the sport of college football. He can't pinpoint the why anymore nowadays with college football. You know, and he even said this, I think, in a press conference the other day. These players are wanting money. They're wanting their egos. Here we go. Ego orientation to just be inflated. Like, that's the reasoning. I know not every college football player is like that, but nowadays that's kind of the protocol. Like, what can you give me? What kind of deal? What kind of money? What kind of car are you going to give to me if I commit to this school? But for Nick Saban, it's about the task orientation. It's about getting better than what you did yesterday, becoming a better human being. It's about development. And nowadays, it's just hard to pinpoint that. And so people like Nick Saban, who I think is tremendous, recognizes that the motivation is in a different sphere and it's not going to last. Again, it's ephemeral. It's not going to be sustainable. So interesting how that comes around and how those perspectives can shed light on this. Okay, we've been chatting for a while. I want to get just quickly your thought, Ash, on this quote. So I prepared a quote that I thought was really, really pertinent to our conversation today. So here's my quote from my third man crush, Adam Grant.
That's a long
He is a
list
social
of
psychologist.
Man crushes.
I know. So we have Andrew Huberman so far, Peyton Manning, and Adam Grant.
Perfect.
Okay, those are three. Okay. And the list will continue on probably every episode. This is what Adam said, Dr. Grant. He said, motivation and opportunity are more important than raw talent when it comes to how high one can climb. Let me read it one more time, and then I would love just your thoughts. Motivation and opportunity are more important than raw talent when it comes to how high one can climb. Thoughts?
I mean, ditto, amen, hallelujah. I feel like, yeah, Adam Grant puts it perfectly. I think you see, it's something that is so simple and that we talk about all the time, or that you hear like all the quotes, like, right, like talent, like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, yada, 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 all these cliche things. But the reason why it's so cliche is because we see it. And I mean, I would even say this is very relatable for all the players in the NWSL. Like, base salary when I started playing, and it was lower before I started playing. I entered the league when it was like only 3 years old, but it was like $15,000. That's what I got the first 2 years of my career, like out on my own.
Golly.
And so like that motivation, like there's so many players that had raw talent that weren't able to continue to play or stopped playing because their motivation was a little bit different. If their motivation was money, they weren't playing because we weren't making any money. Right. If their motivation was, I love the game of soccer and I want to continue to improve, I know that this is a league that I need to play in because it's the best league in the world. And this is the best opportunity for me to continue to grow. And so that those players are going to be the ones that are going to continue to play. And those are the players that helped the league grow. So that's a small example, but there's so many examples of players that I could also like talk about that, like when they were younger, they were the best, right? They were the most talented. Maybe they developed physically. They were a lot more mature than their fellow teammates, but they didn't have the motivation to continue to play at the highest level. So yeah, there's so many examples, especially in sports, but also I think outside of sports and just in life where this is applicable. So yeah, those are my couple thoughts on this quote.
Well, thank you for that. That was a wonderful way, I think, to wrap this up, to tie just a beautiful little bow. Hopefully you learned something about motivation today, both from kind of a theoretical, scientific lens, nerdy lens, but also, I'm guessing, more enjoyable from a soccer, wonderful, applicable life, like raw lens. Any other, thoughts, Ash, before we officially wrap this episode up? I think this was pretty interesting. I'm hoping that they'll find this engaging.
Yeah, no, I think it was really helpful. And I think it was really helpful for me too, just to like have that self-reflection on like, what is my motivation? Where am I at with my motivation? And what, out of the 3 areas that we talked about, competence, autonomy, and relatedness, like what areas can I maybe like pay more attention to or improve to improve my motivation in whatever area of my life that I'm needing to improve that motivation. But yeah, I think it was really helpful for me just having that self-reflection. So thank you.
You're very, very welcome. De nada, as you learn Spanish, or how those Spanish folks would say that. Gracias, de nada. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for joining us. This was wonderful. Thanks again.
Bye.